The following is a discussion on one of the many theories to the mystery of Raxxla and speculation to future content. It is not a verification or confirmation to what intentions FDev have for the game, neither is it to discount other theories floating around in the elite ether. An open mind is required. One of the many questions I have been asked in regards to Elite Dangerous is, what happened to the Exiles? An offshoot of the main Guardian race who are rumoured to still exist in the galaxy. One of the concurrent themes of this game is its ability to hide lore to the general public, and like so many subjects that have been left on deep freeze, so to speak, the Guardians are no exception. It is pretty obvious to me that the ultimate purpose of the Guardians are not merely the unlock of Guardian anti-Thargoid weapons. If you wanted to inject weapons into a game to combat the Thargoids, why do you need a completely new race with background, sites and locations all dedicated to this new aspect? FDev are not known for adding swathes of new game assets if not overtly necessary. The introduction of this race has been built up since the early days of this game, before even the Thargoid first contact. They have been a core thought in the progression of the game through the updates. The current endpoint for this race is that the Guardians were wiped clean from our galactic plane by their own creations, the Guardian AI. This AI then, according to some, simply shut themselves off after finishing this task for their own self-preservation. Many instances of evidence tell the player base that the Guardian race, or at least their legacy, the AI, have more to add to the storyline of the game. There have been Guardian sites found many thousands of light years away from the current known Guardian bubble, halfway between Colonia and the human bubble. It is almost as if the devs wanted to understand that the Guardians fled, or at least a segment of their race had fled their home systems. One of the next clues to the possible future outcome of the Guardian storyline is the Maanen system. This system was given to the Guardians of the Free Spirit religious sect by the Federation in 2480. They believe in maximum hardship and live underground on several of the inner planets of the system. It is forbidden by federal law to enter the system without permission of the Guardians. Now, as we see from the segment of law that is publicly accessible, is a continual use of the word Guardian. The writers chose to add a minor faction who were called the Guardians of the Free Spirit, who lived in bunkers underground, presumably to hide, and were protected by the Federation via a permit lock. To some, it has nothing to do with the other Guardians in the game. Hard to believe. There are those of us out there that believe that a segment of the Guardians had interacted with humanity, that at some point in the early years of human interstellar expansion, humanity had encountered what was left of the Guardians. The Federation is currently the leading faction in regards to robotics and androids. They openly use droids and their more human-looking equivalent, androids. Between 3290 and 3300 CE, the Achilles Corporation sold over 20 million robots throughout the Federation, including nearly 300,000 PA-912 models. As we see with FSD, supercrews, weapons, shields, and so on, it is uncommon for one human faction to have a monopoly on one particular technology. We have seen Sirius see to this historically. Although smart computers are openly sold throughout the bubble, one aspect of this technology, self-awareness, is banned. The Feds, Alliance, Empire all work together on this issue, as though they have learned from some previous unknown incident and come to the agreement that true AI is an aberration. Why is it the Federation have a monopoly on robotics, and why is the Maanen system behind a permit lock? The following is a quote from Michael Brooks, one of the game's founders. "It is not AI that's banned, but machine sentience. You can still have smart computers, but they are not allowed to be self-aware. Self-awareness is a different construct to intelligence. You can have a system making intelligent decisions without being self-aware. Although finding a definition of self-awareness or intelligence that everyone agrees with is probably a bigger challenge. Mimicking humans isn't the greatest test of intelligence in my opinion. Machine intelligence would be of a different order to human thinking. As he states, it is not a good idea that a computer would mimic the full spectrum of human thought processes and emotions. I wonder with this statement if the definition of true AI is in fact when the puppet mimics the master. Surely if the Guardian AI was to mimic its creator, then environmental concern would be at the centre of its thoughts. One does not exterminate an entire ecosystem in order to preserve that ecosystem. I'll say this again, why does the feds have a monopoly on robotics, and why is the Maanen system behind a permit lock? The following is an extract from Stephen Eisla's The Alien World book. A particularly nasty piece of Raxxla robotics, this skeletal machine was designed to spread alarm and despondency amongst races that the Oseiraxla wanted to subdue without going to all the bother of genocide. This robot, which would normally be a MOLE class model, well up on the ISAC integrated sabotage assassination capacity scale, was sent to selected race disguised as a representative of the most holy caste. When a sufficiently large group of worshippers had gathered, the robot would run berserk or occasionally explode. As we know from the official lore of Elite Dangerous, the Guardian race was exterminated by the hands of their own creations, the AI, as a bloody civil war was fought between those who seen these machines as dangerous and those that integrated their entire lives into these technologies. These machines snuffed out the light of the Guardian race. It seems that the Guardian race had changed at some point in their history, almost like some other hand had flipped a switch. As I have mentioned in another one of my videos, I believe the Thargoids are not acting as one coherent entity, and it seems to me there are two factions of the Thargoid race. One of those factions overtly hostile, and the other not as such. In Stephen Eisla's non-game content, one of the themes of Raxxla, or as he sees them, the Oseiraxla, is the subversion of other races for the purpose of building the Talmor lens. Genocide is not openly sought by the Oseiraxla, but this does not discount it as an option to them. Had the Guardian race unknowingly caught the attention of the Great Eye of Raxxla, seeing them as a threat to the Great Construct due to their environmental guardianship ethos, they sent the Thargoids as a test of might. When the Thargoids beat back the Thargoid marauders, they used other methods to remove this threat. The Guardian monolith network was infiltrated, and those that dwelled within this virtual kingdom were changed in order to serve the Oseiraxla. Some of the Guardian race detected this threat and moved to protect their race. As the two groups fought amongst themselves, the Oseiraxla changed the nature of their artificial intelligences and finished this process using their last resort. There could have been, of course, scattered segments of the Guardians that fled into the void, away from the carnage. There is in fact some credence to these groups surviving. Hypothetically, when humanity expanded into the Maanen system, one of these splinter groups of Guardians were encountered and interacted with humanity in some way. Surely if this was the case, these Guardians would have warned humanity to the existence of the Oseiraxla and their puppets, namely the Thargoids. I always wondered how Ramtar got such an acute understanding of Guardian technology. Within Stephen Eisla's literature, humanity had encountered the Oseiraxla, or at least their robotic analogues, and worshipped them as gods. For a more in-depth look at this aspect, please watch my video, linked above. It seems to me at least, that we have another player on the galactic chessboard. Could this new, or old player, be indeed the Oseiraxla, prepping the human race for something grave? Whether by bishop or by rook, is their ultimate goal to once again clear the board? Thanks for the watch. Apologies for the gaps in uploads of recent. Having a little holiday, it seems that I aspire to explore in games and in real life. In Elite, an error would lead to a rebuy, whereas it is now apparent that in real life, and in my case, one of these errors led to broken ribs while slipping down a mountain. Rebuy was sought after, but I couldn't find the rebuy option at the point of impact. Please feel free to discuss below, even if you disagree. I've set up a Twitter for the purpose of updating you on future uploads. If you use Twitter, please feel free to follow me. please make sure that if you like this video to hit the like button. If you are new, please consider subscribing to this channel and hit the bell notification icon below for updates on future content. It all helps this channel grow. Cheers.